Everyone, I'm about to introduce to you author Brett Grayson, and we're going to be talking about this book, brand new. It's his debut book, and it's called What Could Go Wrong. And it's like a memoir autobiography about his life with his children, having children, with his wife. It's all kinds of stuff. Hysterical. Oh my God. I was literally laughing out loud. Okay. It is that good. I've been saying this more and more that I should be reading more funny books. And his one covers such deep topics about having children and about being married, but he does it in such a great way. He is funny. I can't wait to talk to him. So, everybody, here is Brett. Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I am speaking with author Brett Grayson, and we are talking about his brand new book that we don't have a copy of because I usually go like this or something. But we had it both digital. It's What Could Go Wrong, just came out January 15th. And I literally laughed out loud during this book, okay? And I
Thank you.
love a funny book. You are hysterical. I don't know if you're as hysterical like in life as you are in writing, but you are hysterical.
Well, thank you. I don't know either. I mean, that's the point of writing. You can edit and edit until you're actually funny.
Oh my God.
But I don't know. Some people in my life think I'm funny. I'm sure my wife's probably heard the same jokes 5,000 times already, so she's probably doesn't think I'm so funny anymore. But the usual stuff. So
Right. Well, you're a lawyer in real life, right? Outside of being an author.
I am a lawyer in real life. I am breaking up my time now, doing sort of half law, half this. Some days I go into the city and I practice law. A couple days a week I'm out here, where I'm out now in Jersey. I had opened an office, which is where I wrote the book and where I'm promoting the book and all that. So in a way, I'm living the life. I mean, it's Friday afternoon, and I am in sweatpants and I have not shaved, and that's sort of the dream with any writer, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
the exact opposite experience of having to wear a suit every day and shave and look presentable. So I'm playing my writer, wearing my writer hat today.
Well, in my former life, before I was not, I shouldn't say before I was a mom, because with my older children, I also worked, but I was a legal secretary. And I worked at a lot of places, but I worked at a very large firm in Washington, D.C., where I learned so much. But after I raised my children, I was like, I'll just go back to being a legal secretary. Well, guess what? There's no such thing. They've been totally like, since I was a legal secretary, they don't need legal secretaries anymore. So,
Yeah, my father's a lawyer, and he has a legal secretary. It's weird because that generation,
yep.
they don't necessarily type for themselves. They don't do all those things. So they had somebody. Our generation's becoming a little bit antiquated. So it's I enjoy. Just you didn't ask me this, but I enjoy the practice of law, but it's very different from this. It's a lot of pressure, dealing with clients every single day. This is a whole different ball game for me. So what started out as a hobby, sort of as a break from all that, has become something much more, which I'm happy about. But we're still early on in the game. Just released it.
Well, right. But I don't think you're going to have any hard time. This book is so good. I couldn't read it fast enough. I sat down to read it and I was like, I stayed in one spot because because your take on being, well, of course it's been a number of years since I've had a newborn baby and been pregnant, but I loved like hearing the male side of it. I felt like I
Yeah.
kept talking to you through your pains about it. I was like, oh really? Oh, is that right? So
Well, I try to be a little. I try to be a little self-deprecating with that because I was well aware that I was along for the ride.
yes.
My wife definitely experienced a lot of things there, but I think one of the things that I wanted to sort of portray was that just because I'm not the one carrying the baby,
Right.
I just as many thoughts go through my head, just as many crazy feelings. Now, do I deserve as much sympathy, or as much empathy as the person giving birth? No. But I just thought that there's always another half, or usually there's another half to when they're having a baby, and the father is sort of plays an interesting role in it, and has a lot of interesting thoughts, and is a little confused a lot of times as to what he's supposed to do and not do. So I sort of try to put that down on paper, and in a way that I thought was, would be funny but also relatable to people.
Absolutely. And, I give you so much credit because I'm now divorced. We made it 14 years. I had 3 children, got remarried, had another 3 children. But on my 6th child, when I got pregnant with him, I was 37. And I remember when I told him, he was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so hard when you're pregnant." And I was like, "Really?" It's so hard when I'm pregnant. Like, I just thought it was hysterical because I was like looking at it like, "Oh my God, I have to be pregnant again." And he's like, "Oh my God, it's so hard when you're pregnant."
Yeah,
Never mind that it was number 6 and I had a 16-year-old, like, and every age down, and it just, but
you have a couple books. You have a couple books in you.
I have a couple books, but I really did enjoy, because I think if you could do your life over again, right? If you got to that second take, okay, but you don't. But if I did, what I loved about your book was that your humor in it. I wish I could have. My children will tell you this, and none of them are watching, but it doesn't matter. I was so serious. I was so like, keep them alive, keep everybody safe. I was so serious. And when I read yours, I was like, I wish, if I could give you a gift, it's keep that, because your children are still young. If you can keep your sense of humor throughout every stage of being a dad, like,
Yeah.
Somehow I lost my humor in it. I really did. And I was a single mom for a lot of that too. But I just was so serious. And not until now, when, my kids are older, when I was reading your book, and now my younger kids would say, "Oh, you aren't that serious," because I lost it. You can only keep it up for so long, okay?
Of course.
But I think that's the best advice. I was like telling you this last night as I was finishing it. I'm like, Brett, just keep this. Keep rereading this book, because it'll be the best gift you ever give to yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, the one thing I would say with regard to the kids is I just assumed that when we had these kids, that the fact that I would provide for them and be there for them and care about them would be enough. And it's really freaking hard to parents. Like, I 3 or 4 times a day, when I'm especially on the weekends, I'm with them all day, I'll catch myself, or my wife will point it out to me, or I'll point it out to her. You didn't handle that right. Like, you were too loud with them. You're too impatient with them. I'm just making constant mistakes, and I think that's one thing that I try to portray in the book, that we just didn't have any idea what to do. And we still don't, to a degree. You learn what works and what doesn't work with your kids better than other people would know what to do with your kids.
Yeah.
But it's still a crap show a lot of the time. A lot of the time, it's just not going. It just doesn't go well. My kids have a lot of tantrums and a lot of bad days, and I can't even tell you how many times I'll say to myself, "There's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with her. She's not acting right. She's acting right." And then I talk to other parents. They're like, "Yeah, my kids are the same way." Like, you think over and over again that you're doing something wrong, or that if you're not doing something wrong, there's just something wrong with your kid. And in reality, that's just the way it is. It's really, really hard to get it right.
Yeah, it's almost a losing game if you think that, of course, it's funny watching my older kids parent, and I'm going to have them read this book too, but they think they're better. Like, they'll say it. I mean, they say it out loud. They'll be like, "Well, you did it this way, but I am better than you." And I'm like, "Okay, go ahead. Go for it. Be better."
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you delusion. I mean, I thought I was better. I thought I was better than my parents in some respects and some things. We're always trying to, like, self-correct. Like, "Oh, well, I didn't like when they did this, so I'm going to do it this way." But then you find out that it just, I don't know. It just doesn't matter anyway.
I've been through, and I talk about mental health in the book a lot. I've had plenty of therapy, and I think that through that therapy, I have learned some things that I would change. And I think that, like my parents, they tried the best they could, and I think that they made mistakes. But I don't think they made any more mistakes than I'm making so far. But I definitely have opinions on what I would like to do differently.
Right.
And they will say to me sometimes, you think you think and yet it's not. It doesn't go that way. And I think that that's something that I'm battling with now. Just a perfect example of that was my mom called me last night and told me a few of her friends had read the book and enjoyed it. And the line that a couple of them stood out to them was that when they go into when their kids come over to their house, the first thing they do is look in the refrigerator to see what's expired. And my mom was like, "You just think that we're idiots. You think that we don't care about that kind of stuff, and we'll just let things expire." And it's like they're like, "We did the same thing with our parents.
Right.
You think you know better. You think that we're not on the ball, and yet you're standing there right now, and you wouldn't be there if we didn't get a lot of things right also."
Right.
So I think that I do talk about that in the book, the things that I would do differently and the lessons I've learned. But I don't think that that's necessarily an indictment on my parents. And I think that sometimes they can be sensitive, partially because I think it's a generational thing. I think that their generation, especially with regard to mental health, has been very, does not talk about it a lot. It's a little bit of a secret. So I think that's been something that I've come out with, that I think that they've had to get comfortable with.
Right. Well, I have to tell you another thing that we have in common is that I went through anxiety disorder. Since I was a teenager, right? So when I had kids, I thought I had it under control. Because you think you do. You have this thought of you do.
Yeah.
And I had my bad times, and I had times, I still struggle with it. But I'm just saying, when I was raising them when they were little, I really was like, they can't tell. I've got this in check. And then my OCD on top of it, but the anxiety was, my panic attacks were always way much worse, but I kind of cover them up, right? Well, so as my children get older, some of my older children have anxiety issues. And my one daughter called me the other day and she was like, "You know what? I had a panic attack the other day and it's your fault because you had panic attacks and then you passed it down to me and it's not fair." And I was like, did I ever have a panic attack in front of, I didn't even think I ever did.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about the anxiety thing that you think you're doing really well, but there are some things that I passed on to them, and I just apologized. I was like, "I'm sorry, I've tried. I thought I did pretty good. I don't know."
Yeah, apologies. Well, there's a couple things in terms of what you were saying that I think are interesting. I think that one is my wife and I are both, my wife's dealt with some postpartum issues, and we've both discussed at length keeping things from our kids. That's a really tricky issue because you don't want your kids to know. It doesn't make a lot of sense for a kid
Right.
that their idols, their parents, struggle some days to even function and do things. There are days that we both have bad days. And so there's that element to it, which is something that we talk about. The good part is we tend to zigzag, my wife and I. When one of us is having a bad day, the other one tends to have a better day, which is, I don't know how we manage to do that. But the other thing is, like you said, we both worry about our own kids. My kids are a little young to know that yet,
Yeah.
but it goes without saying that there's a pretty good chance that at some point in life they're going to be they're going to have to deal with some of these things. But what can you do? I mean, hopefully medicine's improving. Hopefully we've learned enough to put them in the right places, that they'll have to struggle less than we did. But yeah, it's been an issue. It's been an issue for myself. It's been an issue for my wife, and unfortunately, but we're dealing with it.
Yeah, and I just thought you were so brutally honest. And my mom struggled with anxiety, but she would tell so I could go to her and I could say, "Oh, this is not a good day. I want to stay in bed. I want to, I don't know what." And she could help me, and I can help my children. They are honest with me about their anxiety issues, and so for what I thought I was hiding, because I thought, well, I'm going to do better and hide it. My mom didn't do such a good job hiding it. But now I don't know that it's something you can actually prevent them from having. I think that's something that maybe even, I don't know that I have no idea. But I do know that the good part is that she helped me. And then I, in turn, when they are having a bad day, I can say, "Oh, yeah. Oh, this is what you do. Oh, just breathe through this," or just, do whatever.
Yeah.
But it is funny because I did spend, after my sixth child, And I didn't realize I had postpartum, or, I don't even know if it was postpartum, but I stayed in bed for like a month, right? But I had all my older children and I had them convinced that I was like sick, but really it was just my anxiety.
Yeah.
And then they come back later, they remembered it and they were like, what was wrong with you that month? I'm like, oh, whatever. I was
Yeah.
one day I just got out of bed. Like I was lucky. I was lucky that I could just work through it. But it does, because anxiety can paralyze you, and I didn't know what was going on, but I managed to get help. But the kids remember, some of them remember stuff, and
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the book is comedy stuff, is real funny stuff,
yes,
and it's interesting because I go into my wife's postpartum a bit, and obviously I cleared it with her, and she felt
right,
comfortable because, but postpartum is a whole other animal to itself than
yes,
the stuff that I've dealt with, and I thought that I had not really read anyone who had portrayed that from the standpoint of what does the father
go through,
experience during this
right,
process. And I thought I tried to portray it that way because it's a really interesting time, for lack of a better word,
right,
when you have a new baby and it's the most exciting thing in the world. And the mother's role is tremendously important during that point. So it's really a strange time that the nature has created that it would prefer for moms to struggle, but it's just the way it is sometimes. And that was an interesting experience we went through. And I know just from the few people we've spoken to about this is it's everywhere. It happens to a lot.
yeah. I was really happy that she allowed you to talk about it, because what I found interesting about her journey was, we look at postpartum as like, or we were told, and I've gone through stages of babies, over the years, but it was always like something you should look at like 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after. By the time you hit that month, it's like you're supposed to be good. You're supposed to be,
Yeah.
and I have found, and watching, my daughter have babies too, that's not true. That first month is, sometimes you can be on a high for a month.
Yep.
And then it starts setting, when your wife, you noticed it, like she should have been happy because she was sleeping. So we think, oh, well, we're getting a full night's rest, we should be happy now. But almost it's weird. It's like kind of creeps in on you and you don't really realize. One day you're like, I'm not happy and I don't know why. But
Yeah.
I'm not happy because I should be happy. I have this perfect little human being that, I should be really happy about. And
Exactly.
so I was really happy that she let you talk about it, because I think that I haven't read about it in the way that you talked about it, with at that time frame, instead of that 2 week, 3 week, 4 week. She experienced it later, but that I found that is a good time. That is the time that,
Yeah.
reality. It's almost like
It was
reality, but I
months
don't want
out.
to say reality. But your hormones, I don't know, start kicking in.
Yeah.
Start doing weird things to your head. You know.
Yep.
So that was really awesome. I thought you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, I love the beginning. Okay. You start off with Frozen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my grandchildren are into my five granddaughters, and they were all like, and every year I'll say like, well, what do you want me to buy? And they're like, Frozen, like I'm like, oh my God, have you not seen that movie a million times? So I really kick out of the first chapter when you talk about that. Like how many times can you watch that movie?
Yeah, it's the bane of my existence. My daughter's 6. I mean, look, there's a lot of new stuff out, so she's starting to get into other stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought it was important to portray that this is what you deal with as a parent these days, seeing the same movie over and over again. I wrote actually a longer review of it in a blog, a review from the parent's standpoint of just how unbearable it is to watch over and over and over again. But yeah, no. So that was an interesting way to open the book. I had mixed reactions to it because I opened with a bit of a profanity-laced tirade.
Yeah.
Uh, but I thought that, look, you're always trying to grab people's attention when you start a book, so it didn't hurt to write it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that you were so open about everything relating to marriage. And like I said, I wish I almost would have had your book when I was going through, because marriage can be, when you have children, and of course my second husband and I, we got married having 4 children. Okay. So It's not like, oh, let's have fun. It's like the next day we woke up and we had four children to take care of, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a way different thing, but it is more common nowadays. That's kind of what's happening in today's world. But you were just so honest about the transition from not having children to having children and what that's like. And I think it's going to help so many people because I didn't experience it, but I can only imagine that I thought the way we did it was kind of hard, but I can only imagine that, you know, you had this like freedom. I had my first
Yeah.
child at 22. I didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
freedom, you know. You guys
Yeah.
lived that professional life before and were married and got through all that. And then it's like having that baby and then being like, oh my, you know, like it turning your world upside down and, you know.
Yeah, we're very, like, yeah, it was one of the things that I tried to portray in the book accurately was I think I do a chapter on what our day was like before we had before we had kids, just what a Sunday would be like. How would we wake up and we go for brunch and I would watch football games and all that,
Right.
and just how that's just like wiped away. And like you don't appreciate just how much you yearn for those moments. Now you wouldn't trade it. You wouldn't trade your
Right.
kids in for it. But if you could stretch it out another year, if you could get you could go on that vacation
Yeah.
across the world. If it's affordable, that's just not feasible anymore. That's something that, hopefully through humor, I try to portray. Look, this is what my day is like every day on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Just how chaotic it is. Just how much it just does not stop from the minute you get up to the minute you go to bed. So yeah, that was something that I guess I tried to convey, in the writing, and just how different it is. But look, the ultimate moral of the book, if there is any, is just how amazing my kids are and how much they've created value in our life. I think that one of the things I struggled with over a lot of years, through therapy, I figured out was just that didn't feel like I had a purpose. That I was just going to work every day and coming home and just going through that process. And my kids, when you get up every day, you have a built-in purpose. Now, it's not fair to them. They shouldn't feel like that I'm putting that pressure on them, that they're so important to me. But look, until they're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, day in and day out, we control their lives, and every day we have to be there and present and doing homework and being there to get them dressed and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it overall was a good thing because I think that it has really helped find meaning for me in terms of what my day to day life is like.
Yeah, I find myself like if I'm at the mall and I see a mom struggling with two little kids, you know, and it takes me back to like I wish I had little like we're always but I remember being that mom that was like they're never going to grow up. I'm going to have to chase them forever. It's never going to happen, and then I look and I'm like, oh, just cherry because it does. I can't even. I mean, I know people hear it all the time, like how fast it goes, but it's not an exaggeration. Like it goes before you blink and you're like, it's oh my god, they're 18. How did that happen?
Yeah, I know. My daughter's 6, my son's 4 now. So I wrote the book. I think in the book they're 4 and 2, turning 5
Yes,
and 3.
yes,
There had to be a cutoff point. I cut it off at some point, but so much has happened since then. But yeah, there is an end point to the book, as in terms of I'm talking about diapers a lot in the
yes,
book, and diapers is a huge theme, and we're out, we're done.
yes.
Which I'm not complaining about.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I never complained about that, but I'd love to count how many diapers I've changed over the years. And I just
yeah,
have to tell you, you are an amazing dad because, I'm not putting down my ex husband at all. Like, I'm not going to go there. But let's just say he rarely changed a diaper. In his defense, I did have older children that I could hand babies to to say change diapers to. My oldest
yeah.
daughter, as a matter of fact, like I could just say, here, I could hand off. That's the kind of the beauty of having a lot of children is the younger ones you get a lot of help from. But I mean, you woke up in the middle of the night. You did, you are amazing. As I was reading this, I was like, wow, you are
Well,
amazing.
thank you. I think a lot of things are shared in general these days. I think that the roles are shared as they should be.
Yes.
I think that it can even be reversed in certain circumstances. It really
Right.
depends on the jobs and the hours that the parents live. and my wife's a podiatrist, and she
Right.
works a lot of hours. And I'm a lawyer. Before when this was all happening, I wasn't really writing as much yet. But as a lawyer, I don't work for anybody. I work for myself, so I
Right.
had control of my own schedule, and it enabled me to wake up in the middle of the night. And if I had to sleep an extra hour in the morning because I was up with my daughter in the middle of the night, So I think that some of it is circumstantial. I don't, but I do think that there was a patriarchal aspect to, I talked to my dad, and like his father, was grew up in the Great Depression. Didn't change his diaper. I don't think he ever kissed him. You know, uh,
It's
so
changed.
it's a very different upbringing, very different experience. And I think it's better now. I'm not complaining. I mean,
Right.
as I've said, it creates meaning in your life. It creates meaning in. I feel closer to my kids because of it. And I enjoyed those middle of the night moments. I miss them now, actually, to be honest with you.
Yes. Yeah, right. See, you missed that part already.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I don't know. I always liked it too. I like the middle of the nights. But okay, before I let you go, I mean, you have lots of material here. I mean, you could just keep going with this as they grow up. Is that what you intend to do? Are you just going to keep writing about your life?
Yeah, I mean, yes. The problem with doing it this way is that because it requires things to happen in life, you're sort of a little bit at the mercy of time. I mean, it's not as though I can just create something out of thin air, make up some fictional characters.
Right.
Not that there aren't writers who do that, and I've discussed this before. Not something that I have found myself to be great at doing. I find that when I'm talking about my life, it works better. So I'm blogging a little bit about little things they go through, and I guess the dream is to keep doing this and to write a sequel to it eventually.
Yeah.
So we'll get there, but we're still. I'm learning that the book came out last week. That it doesn't stop the week that it comes out. That there's a months and months and months of this trying to get it out there and get it in front of people's eyes, and hopefully they'll love it. Hopefully it'll make them laugh. Hopefully they'll be moved by it in some way, and they'll want to tell their friends because it really needs to grow organically. I have not found a better way for it to happen, or just from what I've researched, you need people to fall in love and tell their friends you have to read this. So that's sort of the goal here. We'll see if it happens, but I'm trying.
Well, I tell you what, I think the best thing about your book is how honest you are. And you go into details that I have not read in very many, memoirs, or if, I would put this in the memoir category. And there are some people who will say, and I respect that, is like, well, I'm only going to say so much. I'm only going to say, I don't want to say everything. But then at some point it's like when your honesty, like, I could relate to it, then it's like, because you went there, you did go there, you went to all the ugly, all the good, all the, and that way people will relate to you a lot better. And I think that is what is so awesome. And that's why I could laugh because it's like, oh my gosh, like, you're willing to go there, and you're going to help a lot of people too. And which is just a secondary goal. But I think you're going to find when you get out there and start talking to people at bookstores and everything, you're going to find, like, because you go into the mental health, and then you go into your son, pregnancy problems, and all that stuff that people don't want to talk about. Everybody just wants it to be all perfect and beautiful, and but it's not always that way. And there are people out there that need to hear this, that they're struggling too.
Yeah, just one last thing on that is my wife actually, after it came out, it said one of the things that she said was I wonder if people are going to reach out to me, and to tell me about their issue, some of their, whether it be postpartum or pregnancy
Right.
complications, things like that. And for first thing I said to her was, first off, it's early. I
Right.
mean, people have a million things to do. It's a lot to ask people to pick up a book and read cover to cover so fast. But the other thing is not everybody feels like sharing this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'm saying, like, I'm sure that will happen, and if it does, that's great. But just because we've decided to talk about all this stuff doesn't mean everybody else wants to necessarily talk about it. So we respect that as well.
Right.
It can help them in a different way if they're reading it and go, okay, this makes me feel better because
Right.
we both went through this. I don't need them to call me up and tell me that. hopefully it just means that they're relating to it and it helps their life in some way, and that they share it with their friends and say, look, to their friend, look, I know you're going through a tough time. This is somebody who's talking about it also. So, I think that we can get some gratification in that as well.
Yes.
And that's something that, hopefully will happen.
That's what I'm saying. Even anybody just reading it, even if they don't reach out, or even if they, just I found something out for my daughter today. She's 27. She has 3 children, and we were talking about a friend of hers that was having a baby. And she said to me, I guess when the girl made an announcement, she called it a rainbow baby. Now, when I saw the announcement, I was just like, okay, like cute. I don't know, right? And Kara's like, my daughter Kara, she's like, yeah, can you believe it? Nobody even knew that she lost a baby. And I was like, what? She's like, well, the next baby is called your rainbow baby.
I never heard of that.
I was like, so that generation has a way,
Yeah.
of like expressing themselves. Like, it's not like she went on Facebook and said, I had a miscarriage today or I lost a baby today. But then the next baby, it's kind of announced in a way of like that. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Okay.
No, definitely. And that generation, I would put myself somewhere between generation X, Y, and the millennials. I think I'm a little older than the millennials. The millennials put me to shame with how open they are about everything.
Right.
And I just think it's a great thing. I think it's amazing that people feel comfortable talking about this kind of stuff now. And I hope that I can add to that a little bit,
Yes.
with this book.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, so because I'm a generation a little bit older than you, so it's new for us to express things a lot. But then I think you're right. That generation, they want to tell their story and they want it to be there. So I
Yeah.
just want to tell everybody to go get this book. I loved it. Okay, we've all been there. You've got to find something in your book that we have been there. Okay.
Well, thank you.
If you have given birth, you have been there. So.
Yeah.
And if you're just married, you've been there. So you
Yep.
cover a lot of things there. So I'm going to put all of Brett's links below so you can find him. I will also put the Amazon link below. You can go get it. The book is out now. There's already reviews. Just the fact that you're getting reviews already, you should be just thrilled, because you have no idea how many books I see that have been out for a while and don't get reviews on Amazon, and you already have some. So I was
Thank
really
you.
happy
Yeah.
to see that.
Yeah, I do. I do refresh the page 4,000 times a day, but don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody, right? It's a whole new game. You can write about that, because that's a whole new game right there. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Brett. It was really fun talking to you, and it was really fun reading your book. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay,
Take
have a
care.
great
Bye.
weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I knew that was going to be fun. Oh my gosh, I love his book so much. You got to get it. But, I'm so happy that I got the chance to talk to him. And his story is amazing. And he is such a great, brilliant, writer. And I can't wait to see what he writes next. And so, like I said, all the links are going to be listed below. If you enjoyed our video interview, please hit like. And I put out videos every single day. Thank you so much, Brett, for taking the time to talk to me. Bye-bye, everyone.